So take a look. This is from ESPN Stats and Info, tweeting out, due to the Deshaun Watson injury, ESPN Analytics has dropped the Browns from an 80% chance to make the playoffs to 63%. So still almost 60, it's above 60% chance to make the playoffs, which I get the questioning it. I get why they dropped it. It'll be interesting to see if Dorian Thompson-Robinson comes out and plays well. Does that go back up? I would guess it will.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to judge DTR off really much in the Ravens game. And we've talked about already, how he kind of came into that with very unfortunate circumstances. I mean, he only found out he was starting 2.5 hours before the game and really didn't have time to change a game plan, because you're not just game planning with the quarterback. You have to coordinate it with the 10 other guys in the starting lineup, not to mention the other guys you're rotating in. You're talking other running backs, you're talking receivers, tight ends. I mean, it's hard to change a game plan, when you have to, not just for one player, because you got to change it for everybody else. So getting that full week to, prepare as a starter, we'll see what that does for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And I completely understand, why that, percentage number dropped 80 to 63%. I mean, you look at the schedule. I mean, I know the Browns have one of the easier schedules left in the NFL, especially among some of the teams that are competing in the playoff spots, for example, Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. But because you no longer have Deshaun Watson, some of these games, they looked as ones where you could really believe the Browns win. Now they're much more toss-up games. Not all of them are going to be gimmies. When you thought, at Cincinnati was going to be one you really had a chance to win with Watson, now all of a sudden he's out. If that game's for the last wild card spot or whatever, it's DTR trying to go up against Joe Burrow, and you have quite a mountain to climb in that regard.
All right. This one is from Jack Duffin. So we know Dorian Thompson-Robinson, backup quarterback, will get the start against the Steelers. So far this year, Browns are 2-2 with their backup quarterback starting. Rest of the season is in play. He's saying 4-4. Because of the 2-2 in those games makes it 10-7. That's probably middle of the road kind of guess. But the other thing that I would say, they're 2-2, and those 4 games were against pretty elite competition. They won some really impressive games with their backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, imagine trying to tell anybody at the beginning of the season that, the 49ers are going to be 5-0 coming into Cleveland. They're starting PJ Walker in his first start with the Browns, and then they went, and the Browns win anyway. Imagine, trying to fathom that at the beginning of the season. It's kind of interesting how that played out, but, it's not just Deshaun Watson. They haven't had Nick Chubb since week 2. They haven't had Jack Conklin since week 1. They could go into this game without DeJuan Jones, This offense has been devastated largely by injuries to key high-level players. And, I mean, you're talking potentially, obviously, your starting backfield is now gone for the season. So when you look at those things, it's amazing the job Kevin Stefanski has done to keep these guys on track and, finding ways to win and kind of cobbling winning football together, which is sometimes all that kind of matters. Yeah, this team's probably not going to go to the Super Bowl. This team's probably not going to be, a team that competes for the AFC title without Deshaun Watson, but certainly one where, if these guys, find a way to keep cobbling more wins, get in the playoffs, and, just that experience of getting there, especially without Deshaun Watson, for these final games, that they're able to get there and just get another taste of that like they did in 2020, it can only mean good things going forward. Just get that feeling of, what it's like to be in that playoff environment again.
All right, so here is a look at the Browns' remaining games. So they play the Steelers, obviously, this week. Then they go Broncos on the road, Rams on the road, Jaguars and Bears at home, at the Texans, Jets at home, and then they finish up with the Bengals. Of the teams they play, only 2 of those games are against teams that have scored more points than they've given up. Texans are plus 25, Jaguars are plus 6. Everyone else has a negative point differential. Again, if the offense doesn't turn the ball over, this defense will give you the opportunity to win pretty much every one of those games.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic that, the first team they play is the Steelers when their path to go to the playoffs might have to be to emulate the Steelers. I mean, I'm got my quarterback power rankings coming out tomorrow, and I mentioned how Kenny Pickett, for as how much he struggled this year, how much the Steelers offense doesn't move the football. He doesn't turn the football over. I mean, he's gone 5 consecutive games without throwing an interception, which in this NFL is pretty remarkable. And just it's going to be a point of emphasis. You would have to imagine with DTR is just making sure that they protect the football and not give another team extra possessions, especially in short fields, because I don't care how good your defenses are. If you keep if you keep giving the other team the other ball in your end of the field, you're going to keep giving up points, and then it's going to be a problem because then the short changes, you have to go right back on the field. That can be a problem. So they just got to protect the football. Kevin Stefanski is going to have to kind of go deep in the playbook and make sure they get the run game going, get Amari Cooper involved, David Njoku involved, because as they showed against the Ravens, those two can play at an extremely high level. Cooper's been tremendous through the season. Njoku's come along. And I think if they get those periphery pieces around Dorian Thompson-Robinson working and he protects the football, even if it means, it's a little more conservative, where you had to still lean on the defense, but maybe you give them, a lot more time on the sideline. You go a little more conservative, try to bleed out some clock. That might be the formula I have to go with. But obviously, not having your star quarterback kind of takes your margin for error away a little bit.